Coming up on the Carter Cadence.
You've coached now at two of the most historic programs in high school football history in Georgia. Have you ever taken time to kind of consider that?
Yeah, it's definitely humbling. You know, at both Cartersville and Carrollton, you stand in the shadow of legends.
Hello and welcome back to the Carter Cadence. I'm your host, Brooks Carter. Welcome into another episode. Glad you could join us on the show here. Got an exciting show on tap today. As always, we will get into it with our player spotlight coming up in just a few moments. And we'll have our Northwest Georgia football throwback segment. Not doing a player this week, actually doing a game that I wanted to throw it back to. Thought I'd mix it up. I'd said I might occasionally do games or moments instead of players, and that's what we're going to do this week. It's going to be the 2005 Calhoun State semifinal game in the Dome, back when they used to play the state semifinal games in the Dome. So that'll be pretty exciting. Got some guys on that team that wound up being NFL players, as well as some other really talented guys who wound up going to play D1 and D1AA in college football. So that'll be coming up in our Northwest Georgia football segment. We'll have, in our coaching interview this week, Carrollton head football coach Joey King. He joins the show, and interesting conversation with him about what it's like to coach at two of the top programs ever in high school football, as well as the transition from going from high school to college and now back to high school, as he has done over the last 10 years. So that sets up the show. As always, you can follow along. I'm on social media, Instagram and TikTok at Brooks Carter Media. You can follow me on X at Brooks A. Carter, and the YouTube channel is also at Brooks Carter Media. Follow Northwest Georgia Football on Instagram, just NWGA Football there, Facebook, X, same handle in all three locations. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is this week's Player Spotlight. So this week's Player Spotlight is McCord Purdy, receiver from Pickens High School, the Dragons. As you see on the first play, he takes it to the house. This is against White County. So Purdy is a guy who will be the second leading receiver of all the 55 high schools that we cover. He averaged over 87 yards per game last year. He's the second leader in terms of yards per game. Put that stat graphic out in the last couple of weeks. He is unbelievable. They line him up, split him out wide. They put him in the slot. You see the first, I think, 3 plays here are on quick slants over the middle here, where they have gotten it to him quickly, a little RPO action. Here he is returning kicks for the Dragons, as he's able to avoid defenders, get upfield. Boy, that green really pops. I love the Pickens scheme there with the green and the black. Here he is now split out wide. Great deep ball over the shoulder, right into the end zone, drops it in a bucket. Great catch, sticking his hands out there. Great job on his release too. Unbelievable job getting off man coverage there and getting over the top and providing that target for his quarterback. Here he is on a double move, absolutely leaves the man in the dust into the end zone there for another touchdown. They line him up everywhere. That's one of the most impressive parts about him. He's 6'2". He's truly got that big number one receiver type body, but that's not, he's not just on the perimeter. Here he is in the slot. They hand it off to him down on the goal line on the jet sweep. He gets in for a touchdown. He's top of the screen here. And another kind of double move hits him on a deep slant or post pattern there. They do a really good job of getting him the football. Here he is after the catch, showing some really good moves, makes a couple of guys miss, picking up a first down and a big chunk play there. Back in the slot once again here. I believe this is against Sonorville. Finds him, sets up a 1st and goal there for Pickens. Now back in the slot in this 4-wide formation. This is really big because you can get him matched up with a linebacker if he's in the slot. Finds the hole in the coverage there and picks up a huge gain. Back against Sonorville once again here, 4-wide in the slot, little slant pass over the middle, and he almost houses this one. Winds up getting caught all the way down inside the red zone, but not after he picks up a ton of yardage. This play stuck out just because it was in that mountain fog that you can get into up in north central Georgia. Sets up a 1st and goal for the Dragons. Little slant pass again over the middle. I mean, that is money. Breaks another, shakes another guy there. I wouldn't even say he broke the tackle. The guy never had a chance to tackle him after the juke move. But a lot of these are just simple there. He takes a pop, able to hand, keep a hold of the football there. Well, yeah, but a lot of these are simple. He either finds the hole in the coverage and does a great job with that, or it's just quick little slant passes where he's getting himself open. I mean, look at that catch in traffic. That should have been pass interference. He was getting held, still held onto the football. That's amazing. Here he is again. They do a good job getting him involved in the screen game too. And I might add that their linemen do a good job getting downfield blocking for him. They're going to quick pass over the middle again. I mean, he's a big run after catch guy. He's big, he's athletic, he's got some really good top end speed, and he's hard to tackle. So why not get the football in his hands any way you can? Here they go on a deep comeback route, finds himself open there. Had the corner really had the corner just turning his head around all sorts of ways. Trick play here, they find him downfield. Yeah, and I mean, he's not the guy you want to put in man coverage because he does such a good job running his routes. Once again on a screen pass here that picks up a 1st down, takes several guys to get him to the ground. They've got him isolated on the backside of a trips formation here, and another good job of making moves in the open field. Now he's on defense here as they've got him at corner. Big cornerback. I mean, 6'2". I think he's 180, 190. Big physical guy that's, I wouldn't want to be going up against him if he's playing corner. I think you'll see him at safety some too. Really good job in coverage here as the quarterback winds up having to really just kind of throw it away at the last second, and he makes a break on it and bats it away. Great closing speed to bring the ball carrier down after making the catch there. Now he's lined up at safety. This is against White County here. Good job tackling in open field. Here he is back returning kicks again. We saw him with the 1 kick return for a touchdown earlier on here. Almost takes this one the distance. I think he finally gets caught right at the end of the play. But just an all-around guy. I mean, you see, you can't take him off the field. You got him on defense, offense, returning kicks. You're going to be able to see from the end zone copy here how he's able to kind of get his blocks set up. Gets upfield here. Avoids several tacklers before they tackle him almost out near the 40-yard line. Just really good in space, and those big long strides make his speed look a little deceptive. Another great job here, avoiding tacklers, getting what he can on the kick return. Getting about a 20-plus yard kick return there. This against Sonorville. So we're winding down the highlight reel here. This is a non-region game for Pickens. Gets up past the 30-yard line. Anytime you can get yourself up past the 30, 40-yard line on a kick return, here you're going to see him blocking here as he just throws that guy to the ground. Now you're going to see how physical he can be. Run blocking, which is a big deal. Runs his receiver off here, runs his corner off here and pancakes him. And that is McCord Purdy, who is going to be one of the top receivers in our area this year. Haven't really given Pickens a lot of love. They're a team that kind of is not noticed as much. And I've interacted with some of their fan base, some of their parents on Twitter the last couple of weeks, and wanted to give our guy McCord Purdy a shout out here with this week's Player Spotlight. When we come back, going to get into the coaching interview for this week, hearing from Carrollton head football coach Joey King, who is the winningest head football coach in Georgia high school football history by win percentage. We'll hear about that, all the success that he's had, where Carrollton goes next after they lose a great class that includes Juju Lewis. So stick around for that interview. This is the Carter Cadence.
All right, welcome back into the Carter Cadence. Now joined by Carrollton head football coach Joey King. Coach, thank you for joining us on the Carter Cadence.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, one thing I'm always curious about when I look at coaches' trajectories, their career paths, and this is where I wanted to start with you. You had a really good thing going at Cartersville, but you opted to leave, and you wound up going to college for a few years. First and foremost, Coastal Carolina, then USF. What played into that decision, and what eventually led you back to the high school game in Georgia?
Well, ultimately for me, Brooks, it's trying to do what I feel the good Lord's directing us to do. Cartersville was great. It was good. Shoot, man, great people there. We had a lot of success. It was rocking and rolling just like you wanted it to. And I felt like God just kind of orchestrated the opportunity and called our family into that. Me personally, faith is a big thing in my life. And, in Genesis chapter 12, God told Abraham to go and then he would show him. So for me, it was like God was telling us to do that. I didn't really know why, but sometimes that's what stepping out on faith is all about, is that trust in the Lord. And for us, that's what it was. So we stepped into that journey and had a great time at Coastal Carolina. And then the same deal happened. I had an opportunity to go to South Florida. So we stepped out on faith and did that. Spent a year there with some great guys on both of those staffs. Really enjoyed coaching college ball. But ultimately, it was an act of obedience. But then the impact that you have as a high school coach, I think, is a lot greater. And for that, because coaching is my calling, I felt like that was what we were supposed to do.
It's pretty good testimony there. That's I'm always curious too, was there anything that you learned at the college level that you've been able to bring back to the high school game? You kind of came back to high school right as the college game was getting ready to completely transcend what it used to look like. 2021 was when NIL started, the transfer portal, all that stuff. You kind of came back to high school right when that was about to, change everything.
Yeah, well, I can remember sitting in a staff meeting and hearing that, within the next 5 years, we may be recruiting high school kids agents instead of high school kids. And I knew it was going to be the Wild West there until, the NCAA kind of got a rein on it. And that was one of the contributing factors too, was to kind of get out of that mess, that rat race that it was at the time. So that kind of led to it a little bit. But I guess what I learned the most was, I'm not going to say I learned a ton. I learned I like to be in charge. I did learn that through the process. I like to be a head coach. I'd rather make decisions than suggestions. But I think going from being a head coach to being a position coach, just the detail of individual position football play again kind of was revived in me. As a head coach, you get into running a program and your position coaches have their group and they're in the detail. So stepping, from coaching the whole thing, running the offense, to just coaching the receivers, I became, revived from a detail standpoint of the game. And that's probably the biggest thing that we took back.
You've coached now at two of the most historic programs in high school football history in Georgia. Have you ever taken time to kind of consider that? I mean, that's like two, I was making a joke a couple weeks ago in our kind of our group chat with our staff at Northwest Georgia football about how we've got like the big C's, I call them, in our area. We've got Carrollton, Calhoun, Cartersville, Cedartown. We've got the four big C's there and if I left one of them out, I'm sorry, but you've been at two of the great programs. That's a really kind of an unbelievable thing to be a part of. You don't get to see a lot of guys who get to coach at all-time great programs, and you've done it at two of them.
Yeah, it's definitely humbling. At both Cartersville and Carrollton, you stand in the shadow of legends. You think about Coach Barton, Coach Earwood, Coach Scott, those guys at Cartersville that were really, really big staples there in that community. And then you come here and you got, Coach Grissom, Coach Scott, Coach Teague, a bunch of the people that have been here too. It's very humbling for me to be in the chair that I'm in, kind of working in the shadows of those legends every day. And every now and then, you get so busy, but you kind of stop and really appreciate the journey. For a while there, I thought I was only going to coach at schools that started with C. I played at Cedartown, coached at Cartersville, Carrollton, played at Carson Newman, worked at Coastal Carolina, so those are my big C's. But definitely been fortunate to be mentored by some really impactful coaches, and just the way that the coaching journey has worked out. Even with my trips to college, God has been really good and favorable for us in that. My two college stops were both at the beach, so I go from Myrtle Beach to Tampa. Worked out pretty good. We didn't have to go to Wyoming or anywhere like that for that journey and to learn those lessons. So again, God's direction and his hand on this whole journey has definitely been easy to see.
Yeah, that's not a bad situation where you can live at the beach. I've also talked with Coach Biff Parson at Rockmart, and he coached in NFL Europe for a little while. So that's for to when you coach at the next level, that's not a bad setup if you can live in Europe or if you can live at the beach. So that's pretty cool deal there. Absolutely. But a lot of people are wondering what's next for Carrollton at this point. You just graduated a really, really good class of players, including the National Quarterback of the Year with Juju Lewis. I know it's early, but what have you seen from this 2025 group?
Yeah, I really like our team. We're gelling really good right now. They're working hard. They're holding each other accountable, and they're having fun doing it. That's always fun to see when these guys are coming in here, working extremely hard. Right now on our team, some of our best players are our hardest workers. And when it pans out that way, it's always a fun bunch to coach. So they're coming together. We're having a good off season so far. January, February, and March for us are really about gains and growing. So we're trying to pack on some pounds and grow in the weight room as we head into spring break, and then would be early morning mat drills for us right after that. So we'll find out a little bit more about them during the month of April too.
One of the things too I've noticed about y'all, and I love when high caliber programs do this, is when they go out and challenge themselves in their non-region schedule, playing other high caliber programs. It's almost become a rivalry at this point. You guys in Rome, it's the 10th straight year that y'all have matched up with each other. Another great coach in John Reed and what he's been able to do there. Played Gainesville last year. You'll be playing them again this year, as well as the defending state champion Parker out of Alabama, out of Birmingham. It can be hard when you're a good program to schedule non-region games. So a lot of times other teams don't want to play you. What does that process kind of look like?
Oh, you talking about scheduling games?
Yeah.
It's not a fun process. Sometimes you end up playing over your head at times, and then sometimes you have to try to, put some type of incentive out there for people to come and play you. So for us, the off season is the non-region schedule. You want to try to find balance. You don't just want to play juggernauts week in and week out. Other sports, you can do that. Football, it's a fist fight every week, right? So you got to find the risk of injury, the reward of the experience. There's all kind of factors that go into making a schedule. So for us, the end of it is always who's available. Anybody that's available will play at the end of that deal once you get into scheduling. But when they reclassed last year, The whole part of it going down to 6 classifications was to make the region larger, so there would be less travel for these regions. Well, we ended up with a 5-team region, so we had to find 6 non-region games.
Yeah.
Coming off a really, really successful year with a good group coming back, and it's really tough to do, so we had to get creative with some things, but we like our schedule. We like the flow of it. It's definitely tough all the way through, including our region.
You've put a pretty good staff around you down there too, with your assistant coaches. A couple of them I know personally. They played with my brother at LaGrange College, Nate Masters and Craig Ryan. A little LaGrange flair. My brother and I were actually talking about that. It's funny that this little D3 school has produced a decent amount of high school football coaches around Georgia. My brother's the head football coach at Cahola Creek. There's the new Dalton head football coach, Chris Pruitt, played at LaGrange. I don't know if you knew that. It's a little bit of it's kind of fun to see this tiny little team that won the 2008 conference championship has got coaches kind of all over the state. But I know Nate is a great coach. He was at Berry before he came to y'all. I know Craig is too. But y'all put a really good staff. You put a really good staff around you. A lot of people want to look at your record and see how great you've been, but I know that coaches are only as good as their staff.
Oh, no question. I mean, it's your staff, it's your players, it's the support. I tell everybody my job every day is to not mess it up. And you're in anything, any profession, whatever you do, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. We talk to our players about that constantly. If you want to be successful, look around and see who you're running with. If you're running with people that aren't successful, you're not going to be successful. So it's the same for coaching. We do have a great staff. We've got a lot of Northwest Georgia names in there. Jason Coates played at Rome. We've got Coach Masters and Coach Ryan that had the LaGrange College connection. The Coach K at Berry, they poured into some of those guys and produced some good coaches for us. Justin Montgomery was at Berry and LaGrange for a while, and now he just took the head job at Jones County from our staff. So we got a lot of guys that are from the area that have. We just hired Darrell Bridges as our running backs coach. He played at Ridgeland, rushed for 2,400 yards at Ridgeland, coached at Ridgeland for a while, was at Chattanooga Christian. So he's another Northwest Georgia guy that we just added to the staff as a running backs coach yesterday. So we got a good group of guys. Our staff, I believe, and I know every coach is going to say that, but I believe they're the best staff in the state of Georgia. They're good at ball, they're good at X's and O's, but they're great men that pour into these guys and teach them how football can correlate with life. So that I'm more proud of that than any win or loss.
Yeah, Coach Bridges is a ball player. I remember him at Ridgeland. We used to play Ridgeland quite a bit back in the day. I think I may be getting my years mixed up here. He was the one that played with Von Bell, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think him and Nick Chubb were like the state offensive player of the year, back of the year or something at that time.
Yeah, under Coach Mariakis.
That's right, Coach Mariakis.
Still doing it up in Signal Mountain, right. Chattanooga, Tennessee. Yeah. So I assume he probably followed him to Chattanooga Christian if that's where he was.
Right. Yeah, he was at Ridgeland with him, and then Chattanooga Christian, and he came to Ridgeland with Courtney Braswell. He left and went to Dorman in South Carolina for a year, and we hired him from Dorman. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that's another one who's climbed the coaching ladder there. Yeah. Braswell, he's at Cincinnati now as co-DC. So it's fun to see these guys kind of move on and do some stuff. Kind of makes me feel old because I used to play against them. But talking about coaching staffs, all that stuff. What coach in your career has influenced you the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think there's several for me. One would be one of my high school coaches, Tony Lundy. Tony Lundy was so I grew up in a house without a father, and Coach Lundy wasn't going to let me wander around and not have anything to do. So he'd pick me up early in the morning from the time before I even played, really, just to be a ball boy and to be around high school football. I can remember shutting down the high school every Friday night, making sure the lights were off and the gate was locked with Coach Lundy, and I'm sleeping in his truck on the way home. He taught me about hard work and, how there's no substitute for hard work and to never let anybody out prepare you and all those lessons that high school coaches teach. So he was probably my most influential high school coach. And then obviously I played at Carson Newman for Coach Ken Sparks, one of the most winning coaches in NCAA history. He won a lot of games, but he used to always talk about too, the scoreboard in your heart versus the scoreboard at the end of the field. If the only thing we're concentrating on is the scoreboard at the end of the field, we're missing the big picture. And Coach Sparks passed away a couple of years ago. And you talk about LaGrange College. There's several of us from Carson Newman. It's like a coaching fraternity too that are trying to carry on that legacy, point others to the Lord, and make an impact greater than football. And then I think from a mentor standpoint, it's important too to mention not necessarily a coach that I played for, but a coach that impacted my coaching career a lot, and that's Raven Teague here at Carrollton. When I was at Carrollton from 2008 to 2013, Coach Teague trusted me with a lot. I guess he saw a lot in me. I don't know, as a young coach, I don't know really what he saw, but I would come to him every day and he would just teach me about the coaching profession. What do you look for in jobs, fundraising, budgeting, and kind of help prepare me to be a head coach. And a lot of the stuff from an organizational standpoint that I took from Coach Teague, I still use today.
Yeah, Coach Teague he's got an interesting background. I had no idea prior to doing. I kind of learned some history myself going through those top 25 coaches in the last 25 years. I had no idea he was at Lafayette at one point.
That's right.
Pretty much the best run they've ever been on in their program's history there. So it's been fun learning about some history.
Sure. Yeah.
I grew up watching football in the area, but I don't remember anything probably past kindergarten, which was 98 for me. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
it's been fun educating myself on some of these kind of older school guys. Coach, I'll ask you this to wrap up here. I've asked almost every coach I've interviewed on the show so far. Everyone talks about their coaching careers and whatnot. Take me back to your time as a player. Do you have a favorite moment from from your playing days?
Oh man, I got a bunch of them. I played 3 sports growing up. Played Northwest Georgia area, was the Rome News Tribune Offensive Player of the Year back in the day, and all that kind of stuff. But the relationships are always the thing that stick out. There's moments that were highs that really stick out. I think us beating Mitchell Baker in the quarterfinals my junior year, and the fans rushing the field because we got to go play in the dome. That's one that sticks out to me. But a special moment even in that was my best friend grabbed me because his mom at the time had some lung complications, and with the cold weather, she couldn't come and see us outside. So we got to go play in the dome, which was inside, and he and I jumping up and down after the game because his mom got to come see us play, the next week because we played inside. But all of it, the memories are great, but it's the people that make it special.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. I think anybody that's played, laced them up and played any sort of sport would agree with that. So it's about, you remember the people more than the plays necessarily. There's some plays that'll stick out forever, but you remember the people more than the plays. Coach, I appreciate the time. Thank you for coming on the Carter Cadence.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back into the Carter Cadence. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Carrollton coach Joey King. A really insightful and he's really even temperament. I've never interviewed Coach King, and I really thought it was kind of interesting to talk to him. I wasn't sure what to expect from him. A lot of these coaches, their personalities, you don't really know until you kind of get in a one-on-one setting with them, and He's a really even keel guy, really laid back, and thought that was a fun and interesting conversation. Coach King is a guy that is in high demand. He's a very well-known coach around the state of Georgia, and I appreciate him taking the time to talk with us on the show this week. So this week's NWGA Throwback segment is, as I mentioned at the top of the show, not going to be a player this week. I wanted to do something a little different. Some of these highlights can be hard to come by. There's only so much old film you can find, and you can find pretty much anything on Huddle about 2011, 2012 to now. But anything before that, it's got to be something that somebody uploaded, or something on YouTube, or something that someone personally has a copy of that they can send me, and that's kind of hard to come by. And I don't want to just limit our guys, our throwback segments to 2012 to now. because there's been so many great football players and so many great football moments in our area prior to that. And this is one I kind of had my own for a couple of weeks. Georgia Public Broadcasting, GPB Sports, has several of their old games on YouTube, and that's where I got this, so courtesy to them on this. This is the Calhoun Yellow Jackets 2005 game versus Grady in the state semifinals, back when the state championships still used to be played at the high schools. A host site, a local high school would host it. In fact, Calhoun wound up hosting it this year versus Charlton County after they beat Grady in the Dome in the state semifinals. So let's go ahead and get into that. Let's roll the tape. So Grady wound up getting on the board first in this game. A little toss sweep out here, and they get on and get up 7-0 early on, the Calhoun Yellow Jackets. But that did not last long. In fact, this is the only lead of the game that Grady had. Throw it out here, caught by Chris Durham, former Georgia Bulldog and future Seattle Seahawk and Detroit Lion. He had a big ball game here, and I'll tell you who had a big ball game was Adam Urbano. This is the guy I'd completely forgotten about till I found this game on film a few weeks ago on YouTube. This guy wound up playing, I want to say he played at either ETSU or Georgia Southern, but he was an absolute burner, had an unbelievable day, wound up going for 4 touchdowns, and you'll see all of them here as we go through the game recap. Watch him just run off and leave everybody. And he was only a sophomore in this game and had that kind of performance, which was kind of unheard of. I shouldn't say unheard of, was a lot more uncommon back then. Now it's not that uncommon. They get a fumble here, Calhoun does, on the ensuing drive from Grady, and they're able to get themselves set up down inside opponent territory. They go right back on a play action fake to Urbano to set them up 1st and goal, get it all the way down to about the 2-yard line, punch it in on a fullback dive. A couple of plays later, they go up by a touchdown, and Calhoun would keep the lead the rest of the game. And how about this play? I mentioned Chris Durham on offense, big-time receiver. You'll see a couple more catches from him. But on defense was how he made the big impact in this game. Back-to-back plays here down on the goal line, makes a big stop to break up a pass, then comes up and picks one off here. And Calhoun forced 4 turnovers in this game. You see him making a catch out here, big lumbering body, hard to get him down. They'll show his stats from the season here. 890 yards. 43 receptions, 12 touchdowns, and that was just through the first 13 games. Here's Adam Urbano again scoring. And I may have edited this clip out. I recorded part of this to show, I believe it was Clay Stevenson, the current head coach, on the sideline, but I think I may have accidentally edited it out. Grady scores here to get back within 7, and that's the closest they would be the rest of the game. I think they did score a touchdown in garbage time, but that got it back to within a touchdown. They go on a reverse here to Chris Durham. But this was Calhoun's first trip to the Dome, or to the Dome or Mercedes. They made a habit out of playing down in Atlanta over the last 20 years since then, as Urbano gets in the end zone again, breaking a couple of tackles to get in. Star-studded sophomore there. As I was kind of saying, though, about him, I didn't complete that thought as he scores again on a touchdown, this one on a direct snap. It's pretty commonplace to have big impact sophomores now that make a big time, Calhoun right now, think about it. They had 2 freshmen that were impact players on the state championship team this year. Back then it was a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors. It was mostly upperclassmen making the big plays. Now this play, I included, I'm going to rewind it just real quick. This play I included specifically because not because they lost. It was kind of a broken play there. But Trey Lamb winds up coming in, the son of Hal Lamb, now the current head coach at Tulsa. That's the only reason I wound up including that. He comes in garbage time there as the backup quarterback. Calhoun winds up winning 42-20 to advance to the state championship, where they would eventually wind up losing by a touchdown at home to Carrollton County. But it wouldn't be the last time Calhoun would get back there. They got to the Dome several more times, in fact, before they finally broke through in 2011 and beat Buford to win their first state championship since 1952. Since that point, they've won three more state titles in 14, 17, and then this past year against Jefferson, which was their 5th state title in school history. So fun little throwback there. Some names you might recognize as really great players with Chris Durham and Adam Urbano. Chris Durham wound up with 2 interceptions in that game. He went on to star at Georgia, playing with Matt Stafford and Aaron Murray. So yeah, that's this week's NWGA Throwback segment. So thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the Carter Cadence. Coming up on some future episodes, next week we will have current Calhoun head football coach, Clay Stevenson, coming off that state title that I just referenced a moment ago. What's next for them now that they've got the target on their back for the first time since 2017? How does their current players handle that? A lot of the coaching staff was not even necessarily there the last time that happened. And Clay Stevenson was only an assistant coach the last time that happened. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more on next week's show. We'll also have my former head football coach, Mike Fallour, from Northwest Whitfield, helped establish what is still a streak that's still going. Northwest Whitfield has not had a losing season since 2004. That streak was started and established with Mike Fallour. And we'll talk to him about that, as well as some of his memories from being in Tunnel Hill, as he's now retired and out in Arkansas, where he's from. So it'll be fun to catch up with him on that. Please like and subscribe to our show channels, whether it be on YouTube or Spotify. You'll get notified when new episodes come out, and it'll help drive us up the charts when you like our episodes and subscribe to our channel. So I would greatly appreciate that. Follow us on social media. I'm on Twitter at Brooks A. Carter. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Brooks Carter Media, as well as here on YouTube. And then follow NWGA Football. Just simply type in NWGA Football. That's the handle everywhere on every social media platform that they're on: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch up next week. This has been the Carter Cadence.